Hey guys, Christy here from DaSilva Life and welcome back to our channel. I don't know about you, but I love a good spring clean. Now, when it comes to spring cleaning, it doesn't just have to apply to your house, it can also apply to your business as well. Because digital clutter is real. So in this video, I'm going to share a few tips with you on how to spring clean your business, but the main point of this video is to show you how to really clear out your ClickUp and maintain it. So let's dive in. Okay, so 4 main points I'm going to go through in this video, but I'm really going to dive into the ClickUp one. But when it comes to making sure your business is digital clutter free, there are a couple things you want to make sure you're doing. Number 1 is maintaining inbox zero. So I have an entire freebie and free training on this. I'll link it in the description below if you want to check it out. But I am so passionate about having inbox zero because we actually spend so much more time than we think wasting time in our inbox, clicking on emails time and time again to say, do I have to do something with this? I need to respond, but I'm avoiding this. Where if we have everything filed away, we're using the ClickUp Chrome extension, it makes our lives so much easier, and seeing the clear inbox is just the biggest relief in the world. Okay, so that's inbox zero. You want to make sure that you are keeping your inbox as clutter-free as possible. Inbox zero is not really attainable every single day, maybe not even every week, but having a low number of emails in your inbox is going to make you feel better and work better for sure. So number 1, inbox zero. Number 2, you want to make sure your files are tidy, that every single time you get a file that you have to download, it has a place to go. So we have a couple different places where we store files. We store files in Google Drive and we store files in Dropbox. There are different purposes for each thing. For client stuff, client files, sharing, things like that, we use Google Drive. Also for things like our digital product resources and everything like that, I feel like file sharing is much easier within Google Drive personally. And then we use Dropbox for all of our media storage. So all of our videos for YouTube, client sessions, everything like that, we keep it all in Dropbox. Now you also want to make sure you have good naming conventions for your files. So when we have a meeting, this is how we structure the name for each meeting. So we make sure we have the date, their name, and what the actual meeting was. So if we're ever trying to search for it in the future, it's super easy to pull it up. And you also want to make sure you have a really good structure for your folders. So we actually mimic our ClickUp spaces with our Google Drive folders to make sure that they are cohesive. So here's the thing too, with clearing out your inbox and clearing out your files, this can be an overwhelming task for sure. No way to sugarcoat it. So what I recommend is instead of continually avoiding, because you're like, this is gonna take me hours, schedule it in your calendar 15 minutes a day to tackle your inbox, your files, both. You could do 15 minutes for both, 15 minutes each, whatever you currently have in your schedule. Make sure you're just scheduling it in and then start there. Eventually, as the days go on, you're gonna be getting more and more organized, and then you're gonna come to a place where you have reached inbox zero and your files are super organized. So those are the first 2 things. The next thing is making sure your client experience is on lock. So we use Honeybook as our CRM, which stores all of our communications with our clients. Our brochures, our contracts, proposals, schedulers, canned emails. Then we have them all running in automations, so this whole process of our client experience is organized and as automated as possible. We have so many other videos on Honeybook and client experience on our channel, so make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you can see all of the resources we have for you when it comes to Honeybook. Making sure that your client experience is smooth is absolutely a process. So you want to make sure this, not even just scheduling in time 15 minutes a day, this, you really want to carve out time in your schedule to have this as a focus project. This way you're sitting down, you're really saying, okay, I want to go through my client experience from start to finish. I want to make sure that my brochures are good, my emails are written, everything's put in automations, and it's really something that you want to walk away from without any lingering pieces. You want to make sure that it really feels good when you say, okay, I'm going to now walk away from this project. It's complete for now. Now, just like cleaning a house, your business has the same structure where just because you do it once, it's gonna have that maintenance piece of making sure that you're keeping up with your systems and your files and your digital resources on a regular basis, whether that means once a month, once a quarter, that you're really making sure you're maintaining this organized space and taking a moment to really clean out that digital clutter. So again, we have so many free resources, not only on our channel, but at DaSilvaLife.com/freebies. So I highly recommend you go check those out so you get as many pieces of information you can when it comes to organizing your business and really setting up your systems for success. But now we get to the main point of this video, which is where I'm going to teach you how to clean out your ClickUp and then be able to maintain it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So let's dive into my quarterly ClickUp cleanup that I do to get rid of the digital clutter in my ClickUp and make sure everything has a home and a purpose. Let's dive in.
All right, so let's go through the ClickUp cleanout checklist. Now you can do this a bunch of different ways. I personally love having a main dashboard that has these widgets in it because then it stays here. So the next time that I want to do my ClickUp cleanout, I already have a bunch of the widgets here waiting for me to just go ahead and sift through. Okay, so on the top left of this ClickUp cleanout checklist, this is in the task template, all of these things, but if you want to go ahead and also put on the dashboard so you know exactly what you're looking for, that's great too. So just quickly going through the things we're going to go over today in this video. What are the things we're looking for when we are cleaning out our ClickUp? So first, when you're looking over your tasks, you're gonna look for stagnant tasks, that they're not updated in the last 90 days. So you'll see I am showing you this dashboard here that I've built, but we're actually gonna build this from scratch together. So you'll just see the filters that I have on these and those are gonna stay. Then we have any overdue tasks, any tasks that have assigned comments, any lingering tasks, those are that were created 6 months ago and they're not completed yet. Then going through the hierarchy of our ClickUp. So as our business shifts and changes, the hierarchy and how we're using our ClickUp also should shift and change. So we want to assess that as well. What do our spaces, folders, and lists look like? Do we have to condense any or expand and add some new places as we are growing and developing our business? And then miscellaneous. Who's behind? Taking a look at our SOP library. Is there anything we have to update or any new SOPs we want to create? Taking a look at our docs section, our dashboards, template center, and our brain dumps. Okay, so let's go through creating this dashboard. All right, so I'm going to open this up in another tab and we are going to create it from scratch. So just create a dashboard. We'll call it ClickUp Cleanout number 2. So let's call it ClickUp Cleanout number 2. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize that sidebar. Let me refresh this. And then let's start adding the widgets. So first I'm going to add the text block. You can name this whatever you want. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and copy and paste this right in there. But what I did here, if you don't know these tricks already, I'll show you, is I'm going to adjust this widget in editing. You can write any text and change the formatting by highlighting over it. And so I just added some highlights, bolded this just to separate the tasks out. And then to create a checklist, I just went ahead and did \checklist and then did this here. So as you're going through this, you can actually check these off and it will cross them out, or you can just do \bullet, whatever you want to do. So now let's go through actually creating these widgets. So we have stagnant tasks, tasks that have not been updated in the last 90 days. So let's go through and add a task list widget. We will call this stagnant tasks. I'll make little shortcuts here while I'm building, but I would recommend putting things like not updated in the last 90 days, for lingering, created 6+ months ago, just so you know exactly what that is. And then let's select the location. I'll do these. Okay, let's start with, that should be good. Okay, so we'll add this widget. So now this is coming up. It's showing any tasks in my whole entire workspace. And now I want to add a filter so that the date updated is not the last 90 days. Okay, here are all my stagnant tasks. I haven't touched them in 90 days. Now, what do you do with this information? That's up to you. You want to go through these tasks and say, okay, is this something I'm ever going to get to? If it is, you want to actually assign a due date that you are going to get back to it. If it's not, you can either archive it or delete it or put it somewhere in a list saying like, let's get back to this later, because you really don't want to have your working tasks cluttering up your ClickUp. You really want to store that, or if you even had a list, like one list, where it was called like get to later or something like that, then you can move things into there as well. So you're saying, I want to remember this thing, but I really don't need it in my working task lists. So that's up to you what you want to do with it. We're just checking it out here, seeing what we have going on. Is this something I want to remind myself of, get rid of, or look at a later date? Okay, so that is stagnant tasks. Next we have overdue. So now what you can do, now that you have one list block, we can go ahead and just duplicate this. My favorite thing about dashboards is duplicating the widgets. If I'm creating something similar, it makes my life so much easier. So now what we can do is we can remove this filter, and now we are looking that the due date is overdue. Let's apply that. We're gonna rename this to overdue. You can also add emojis. If you don't know this trick already, Command Control Spacebar brings up an emoji keyboard. Love that. So I will add emojis to different things in ClickUp, whether it's dashboards or lists. I think it's a fun touch, or even some tasks. And something here as well that I think is helpful when we're looking at overdue tasks is instead of sorting it by status, you can go into settings and group it by assignee. That way you're saying, okay, here are all of these different tasks that are overdue. Now who's actually responsible for them? So I can go ahead, click into here and say, hey, so-and-so, can you check on this? Or if there's anything myself I'm responsible for, I can go in and say, okay, I need to take care of these things. So that is overdue. The next one is assigned comments. So I'm actually going to go ahead and duplicate this block. I'm going to rename it assigned comments, take the filter off, and we're going to create that when you click the filter assigned comments, we're looking for has assigned comments. Now, what are assigned comments? Let me refresh this while that's loading. Assigned comments are exactly what it sounds like. You write a comment somewhere and you assign someone to that comment. They're able to then resolve it. So if you're trying to tell someone something and you want to make sure that you know that they saw it, that's what an assigned comment would be for. I'll show you how to create that. Now here in assigned comments, you don't really need it to be grouped by assignee. You can, but it wouldn't be the assignee of the comment, it would be the assignee of the task. So for this one, I would actually recommend just grouping it by status, or you can even do none. So then that will change as well. But when I click into here, you will see any assigned comments will come down here, so you'll be able to check it off. But this says assigned comment example. Once Christy goes in, because it's assigned to me, she can say, okay, I saw this. Either I saw it and I'm acknowledging it, or I saw it and it's complete. So if you want to assign a comment, you can put the comment there, click assign comment, and then choose who you want to assign it to. And then you'll see down here too, okay, Jeff, you have something on here. He can go in and mark that as resolved. So you want to make sure there's no outstanding signed comments. Has someone tended to this thing, or is it still lingering? Okay, so that is the assigned comment section. Let's go ahead and check these off while we're going through them. And then lingering tasks. So lingering tasks are tasks that were created over 6 months ago. So let's go ahead and I will duplicate this top one over here. Lingering tasks created 6+ months ago. Okay, so the filter, we are going to say instead of date updated, the date created is not the last 6 months. Apply. So now this is going to bring up anything that has not been created in the last 6 months, so it is older than 6 months. And so you're able to say, okay, I created this 6 months ago. What's going on with it? Is it still priority, or do I want to forget it? Now, here's the thing with ClickUp too is we use ClickUp in 2 ways, both project and task management, but also as our database instead of using things like Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, things like that. So there may be data points in here that are more than 6 months old, but I'm not going to get rid of them because I still want to store them in here. In that case, what I would definitely recommend is going into the settings and turning off those locations. So for example, our sales trackers or SOP database, things like those, where you know you're gonna have things that are lingering, but you don't wanna delete them or archive them, then those are going to be, you can just exclude them from this filter and this task widget. Okay, so that is lingering tasks. And then one more thing on the dashboard, actually I wanna get to, is this who's behind. So if you add a widget, there's a really cool widget called Who's Behind. And if you just add this, you can choose what locations or just pull all. This is going to show you how many uncleared notifications each member has and how many overdue tasks. So this is really great for just checking on your team, if you have a team, and seeing where everyone's at, and then you can go ahead and check in with them and say, hey, we see some things overdue and a bunch of notifications. If you see something like alarming, that means they're really not using their notification section. You want to make sure that they are. You're setting them up for success so nothing is slipping through the cracks. Okay, so this is the overview of the dashboard that we created. Now this you can keep in here, come back to it each month, every 3 months, whatever it may be, and then just pop through. It's gonna refresh. These filters will still stay here. But now let's go through the other things. So let's go through the hierarchy of ClickUp. So as your business changes, again, as you get more used to ClickUp, things are gonna shift from the beginning. This happens to me, this happened to my clients, this happens to everyone. It's totally normal that when you're first starting to use ClickUp, you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then you start to get more familiar with it, but you don't always go back in and clean up all this stuff that you'd create in the beginning that doesn't make sense. So for example, starting with statuses. So if I went into one of these and say in my admin list, say I had a bunch of statuses that were like to do, in progress, review, complete, etc. Because if you go into here as well, if you go into list statuses, custom, and you see all the ones that ClickUp has showed you, has given you as examples, this might not really apply to all your lists, but you might have set it as the standard statuses in the beginning. So you want to go through your lists and see what the current statuses are and say, do I actually use these statuses? Are they applicable to this list or this workflow, or can I go ahead and clean them up? Another thing you want to do is, a lot of times I see when people have clients and they're starting to onboard clients into their ClickUp, or even just manage their project in their ClickUp, they'll use different statuses and different colors for each client. Well, especially as you're growing your team, you want to make sure that your statuses are consistent, especially when it comes to delegating and SOPs. You don't want to tell someone, okay, when you go into this client's list and you need something for me to review, set it to review, where one client has review as a status and the other client has Christy review. That really wouldn't make sense. You want to make sure it's all cohesive. So go ahead, look through your statuses. Do you use them? If not, go ahead and make them more simplified. Do you have to expand on them? Maybe you have to add a review status and you're expanding your team. And go through and say, okay, is this the same type of workflow? Do the statuses match up, both in the name of the status and the color? If not, make sure everything is cohesive. So that is the status section. After you go through that, this is my original dashboard. Okay, unused statuses. Then you want to look into views. Okay, so in this tutorials, I added all these views up top, which your ClickUp may or may not look like this. Because what happens is when you're brand new and you add a new space, let me name this test, click next. See, you may have checked different statuses here and said, oh yeah, this one looks good. And you may have also said, I don't know what view I want, so I'm gonna turn on every single one, right? Well, what I always tell my clients is start with the bare minimum, being list view, and add more views to each specific folder, list, or space as you go on and you build out that list and that workflow. There's no reason to need these views cluttering your view bar at the top if you're not actually gonna look at them and they're not actually useful. So we're gonna have a whole other video going through ClickUp views, what they're good for. So make sure you stay tuned, subscribe to our channel, because that is definitely coming down the pipeline. But if you're not using these, you wanna make sure you just start with list view, add as you go on. Okay, so a little bit tedious, especially the first time you're doing this. You really wanna click into each space, folder, and list. Look at the views that you have, delete any that you're not using, just keep what you need. Okay, so that is views and then empty lists. Okay, so you wanna go through your spaces and your folders, click into each one, each space and folder, and see, are there any empty lists? So you'll see right here we have a 1. That means there's one open task in this list. So if I'm clicking through these lists and I see a lot of empty lists, you wanna evaluate. Is this because I've completed everything in there? It's a completed client project, but I just still wanna keep it open. I don't wanna archive it yet. Or should I delete or archive it? So you wanna go through, evaluate, do I actually need this thing, or can it be combined into something else? So say operations tasks, right? I have these standard lists in my operations tasks, but they're all full of different tasks. If I was in here and I saw that I only had one task within this whole folder, instead of having a whole operations task folder, I would just have an operations task list. If I wanted to still differentiate, is this admin, backend, finance, legal, I would just create a drop-down custom field and group it by that custom field. So go through, check, do you have any empty lists, any empty things that you want to go ahead and archive or delete. If you don't want to delete it because you're like, you know what, right now my business is not the point where I need this list, but I want to remember that I have it, you can always go ahead and click archive, and then it will archive. And then when I go into my settings here, you can show archived, and then you can restore that like that, and then hide the archived. And that's it. Okay, so empty lists. Okay, a couple other things before we wrap up the tutorial. We have the SOP library. So Here is the SOP library. This is a template that we have in our shop, so you can check it out. I'll make sure to link it in the description below, where you are creating SOPs for your team, right? How do you do things in your business? It's really great to go ahead and take a look at this every once in a while, just to see, do these SOPs have to be updated? Are they up to date? Do I have to create any other ones for new positions or new tasks within the business? And so in here, you'll see we have the date created and date updated, so you can easily see when the last time you updated this task was. And just take a quick snapshot and check it out. Do you need to update anything? Do you need to create anything new? Then docs. So in the docs section, let's go here. The easiest way to do this is actually to go into the docs on the sidebar navigation. Click all, and this is where you're able to go through and see, where are my docs? Where is it coming from? When you click into this, is it empty? Is it being used? Is it useful? And then you can decide, do I want to delete this? Do I want to archive it? Do I want to move it somewhere? You want to make sure that, again, you don't have anything empty or cluttering that really doesn't apply to your business and it's not useful. So take a look at your docs. Take a look at your dashboards. Open up your dashboard column. Are there things in here that were useful once, but now they're not? Are there dashboards that are duplicated or old client dashboards that are no longer clients? Go through, check them, delete them if you don't use them anymore. And the template center. Okay, so in the settings, template center, you will be able to see all the templates that you have created within your workspace. Now you want to go through here and see, is there anything that's old, duplicated, same spiel here? Do I need this? Do I want to keep it? Another thing I would recommend with templates is have naming conventions, because a lot of times you create templates, you still want to keep the old version to know what it was like, but you don't want it being confused with the new version. So you can do something like active dash and the template name, or old dash and the template name. Something like that, just to mark in your head, is this something that I'm using right now, or can I just disregard it when I'm looking for something? And then lastly, your brain dump. So one of my favorite productivity tools is brain dumping. I love brain dumping. Basically, I have somewhere, whether I'm doing this as a practice, like at the end of the day, brain dumping, okay, what's everything that I have to do tomorrow? Let me brain dump it out of my head. Or if it's a brain dump list where during the day something comes into my brain, I don't want to forget it, but I don't want to work on it, I will go ahead and put that in a specific place. Now, a couple different options here. You can use pen and paper, that's cool. You can use a brain dump dashboard. You can use a brain dump doc. My personal favorite currently is using my notes in ClickUp. So my notepad. So if you click over on the right here, you'll see notepad, and I pin this to the bottom. If I unpin it, it'll go away there. If I pin this is where I can create multiple different notes, so you can see the things I have here. Weekend to-dos, videos to film, content thoughts, chat with Jeff. These are all things that I'm like, okay, I need to note them down somewhere. And so you can just create a new note here. So say you just wanted to name it brain dump, and then you can start just brain dumping all the things. And the cool thing about this too is you can always highlight over it and create a task from it too. When you're saying, okay, you know what? Once a month or whatever, I'm gonna come back once a week, I'm gonna come back to this brain dump and see, am I gonna make this a task? Am I gonna store it somewhere? But really what you wanna do is you wanted two things. Number one, go to your brain dump list and say, I have to go through this and organize it, make it tasks. If it belongs in a list somewhere, I'm gonna make this an action plan. Or the second thing is, if you have multiple brain dumps in all different places, you wanna go ahead, gather them and bring them into one place. Now, even if that one place is your notepad and you have multiple different sections, that's cool too. You just wanna make sure that it's somewhat organized. It is a space for you to be creative and just brain dump all the thoughts, but you want to make sure that you don't just have all these million thoughts laying around and you're not doing anything with them. So that was the last tip of this tutorial. I hope it was helpful for you. Again, this task template in tutorial is available in our shop if this is something that you wanted to just go ahead and make sure you upload the task template, have this all here, and that is it.
So I hope that tutorial was helpful for you in knowing what you should even be looking for when cleaning out your ClickUp. Now we have this task template available in our shop. If you wanted to download the full-length tutorial, have this checklist that you can go ahead and set as a recurring task in your ClickUp, whether it be once a month, once a quarter, every 6 months, year, whatever it is. I highly recommend doing this at least once a quarter because you're gonna also have that dashboard where you'll be able to just quickly check in and say, okay, are there any lingering things that I need to really tackle? But it's totally up to you. How often do you wanna do this? How big is your business? Do you need to do it more often or less often? You get to decide. So again, if you are brand new to ClickUp, go ahead, like this video, subscribe to our channel because we have so many amazing tutorials on our channel and so many coming up down the pipeline. And I highly recommend you check out our ClickUp 101 guide freebie. I'll drop it in the description below. And if you have any specific questions about ClickUp, feel free to drop them in the comments below. If you have any tips that weren't in this video that you use to make sure that you are keeping your ClickUp clutter-free, feel free to share with us in the comments below. And that's it. So thanks for watching.